And welcome everybody to another glorious episode of the Put On Waivers Podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. A little chilly at nighttime here, and it's been a couple of days. It's been a couple of weeks, and I miss my OG partner here on the Put On Waivers Podcast, James Amato. He's podcasting up the shores of the Atlantic Ocean. James, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. Excuse me. It was quite the interesting day. I know it's not our topic anymore, but the Edelman news coming across about 5:00 today would really, it was a matter of time. The knee wasn't going to hold up. I didn't think he was coming back next year.
I was just
too big of a contract.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you had any thoughts about DMX. I don't know if you were a DMX fan. And also, with him retiring, is this a retirement, or is he retiring?
I think it's a retirement. Gronk walked away from the game. Gronk wasn't having fun in that system, the system, the Patriot way. Last year, Edelman made a lot of comments about the Patriot way and how he loves being a member of it. And when Gronk walked away, Gronk didn't really release any videos saying goodbye to everyone. Yeah. And Edelman's put out quite a few videos this afternoon, including the Foxborough Forever one, which, it's the NFL. It's a pro athlete, 12 years in the league, 34 years old.
In a league where the average guy is 2.5 years.
You never know what could happen taking a year off, but I think he's done. I think he just wants to be a forever Patriot.
Yeah, and I think also too, the moment he has a lot of great moments in his career. I think he was the one who threw when you guys were really struggling when Baltimore was
the Baltimore game
with the pass, right? He was through the pass on the option pass, and then the catch against the Falcons. If that ball hits the ground, you don't win the game.
Look, he's not a Hall of Famer. Statistically, but he's a Patriot Hall of Famer. He'll have his number retired. It'll go up in the Ring of Honor, and I think that would mean a lot more to a 7th round pick, who was drafted as a quarterback and became one of the top wide receivers in the league. I know he was never top statistically, but he was reliable. There's a great video. There's a great video that I've never seen before circulating on Twitter, and I'll forward it out after. And I think it was Patriots Honey who shared it first, where Edelman in one of his first games returns a punt for a touchdown, and Belichick calls up to the booth. He's like, oh, who's the first baseman before Garrick, right? And then they told him, and he walks over to welcome. He's like, have you ever heard of Wally Pip? And he's like, who? He's like, Wally Pip. Never heard of him? He's like, no. He's like, yeah. He's the guy who Lou Gehrig replaced, and Lou Gehrig went on to play 2,300 straight games.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, Welker goes, oh, good, he can have that job, kick returning. And Belichick just goes, way to be competitive, and walks away.
That sounds like him. So he did have some years. I think the 2013, 2014, 105, 105 catches, 92 catches, and then the 2016 he had 98 catches, and then 2019 had 100 catches. So listen, he was a feisty guy. 5'10", rock solid. A good player, a good player for a long time for the Patriots. I'm glad we have common sense on this show. We don't. It's not the Hall of Very Good for us. It's you got to be great to be in the Hall of anything.
Yeah. There's a lot to that. I think we talk about it's always the Hall of Fame and not the Hall of Stats, but there's a certain level you have to hold, and there's a lot of there's debates going on now on Twitter about who is he a Hall of Famer or not. Look, he's not.
Absolutely
statistically he's not, but he's got 3 championships. He's got a Super Bowl MVP. He's got one of the where do you rank that catch in the history of Super Bowls? Is it one of the top catches of all time? It's definitely one of the most clutch, one of the most incredible Super Bowl games.
The level of concentration on that catch is ridiculous.
The Super Bowl against the Seahawks, he came up with some big catches too. So, he was very clutch in the postseason. He's one of my, he's a top 5 Patriot for me on my all-time favorite list.
Yeah, no question.
And I put him ahead of Brady, and it's who I like and who I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
I just really like Julian Edelman, and it's sad to see him go, but then he held him to 6 games last year. He failed his physical today, so the Patriots, have to get the steps going to release him.
Yeah. Well, good for him, and I'm sure he'll have a little career after this as well too. He's doing something in the Massachusetts area. I'm sure that
well, he's got a nice little business going with his clothing designs and stuff like that. I'm sure he'll stay involved somewhere with that company.
I'm sure he will, no question about it. A really great Patriot and a clutch performer for the New England Patriots for a long period of time. Were you a DMX fan when rapping wise, or
early DMX. I mean, geez,
the energy.
He came out of nowhere. I mean, when you look at the scene he came out of, it was really that whole. It was that whole. It's not the scene he came out of, but the scene he came up against was that whole Puff Daddy.
It was anti that
money, all the good, the big clothing and the big cars, and DMX just came out of nowhere.
I mean, overalls on a chain, and not a gold chain, but like a lock and key chain.
Just some great rap songs. Hell of a career. You hate to see anyone lose their life over drugs, but apparently, what you're hearing and from close friends is there's a lot of issues growing up as a kid.
He did
that led to his demise and his problems with drugs. But it. And again, it's talking about like Edelman in the Hall of Fame, but there's just certain artists you hear for the first time, and they just change your whole scope on things. I throw Guns N' Roses' first album out there. I throw Nirvana and Pearl Jam out there, just different what was coming on. And, we just had for a while there, these heavily sampled artists who just promoted, themselves and being rich and showing off something they didn't really own.
Exactly.
And a different lifestyle. And DMX just boom, it was almost that same impact where it was that 180 from what was going on.
Yeah, he was something else as far as that goes. The cities are listening to the Put On Waivers podcast. Bridgeport, Ohio, almost in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Sorry, Anchorage, Alaska, Dallas, Texas, Hinesville, Georgia, and Long Beach, LBC, out there in California. 858-429-9465 is the text line, and we have a couple of questions off of that. And then let's start off the show with our favorite subject, the Yankees, because I like going at the Yankees a little bit. It's always fun to poke the bear, if you will. The other day, I guess Stanton comes up, hits a massive grand slam, basically out of the stadium. Crowd goes nuts in New York. And to me, I just like to say, I just feel like it's just hypocritical. Like, if you're gonna, you guys hate this player. You don't get to play both sides of it. I mean, to me, like, you don't like Stanton, so don't have Stanton. So don't boo him all the time, even when he does good. I mean, the guy. It's not like Judge is playing games. He's skipping every other game. So you can't just praise Judge. I think the underappreciation of what Stanton does, I think, is just kind of annoying to me.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Yankee fans over the years. I mean, I do know.
Spoiled.
They became spoiled, won too much, wanted everyone to come to the Yankees. There was a time, you go to the early 90s, and Danny Tartabull would hit a home run for the Yankees and get booed at Yankee Stadium because the fans just didn't like him. Once a Yankee, there was a time, if you didn't like a Yankee, you didn't care what he did, and you just don't sense that anymore from fans. It's it's in a sad way, fandom, especially the young fandom, has become just as thick-headed and narrow as people who are just dead set with their political party, and I hate bringing politics into it, but that's what fandom has become. You whatever your team does is right, and you can't speak out against someone on your team. You can when he strikes out, but it's just really weird how the dynamic of sports has changed, with the loyalty aspect of it, especially like the whole regional aspect of fandom, where you have to like all New York teams, you have to like all Boston teams, you have to like all Philadelphia teams. When I was younger, when I was a kid, that was a rarity to know someone who liked every team from the exact same town. I think I had 2 friends who liked every team from like one town. And they're both fans of New York teams. And that was when you were an Islander, Met, and Jets fan, or a Rangers, Yankees, and Giants fan. I grew up in a time when people loved the Pittsburgh Steelers, loved the Cowboys, liked the Celtics, like the Yankees. The Cowboys was the big one. The Cowboys was always the big one, where that was the one team not for the local area that seemed to have a lot of fans. The Raiders. One of my best friends growing up was a fan of the Raiders, the Sixers, the Yankees, and the Hartford Whalers. So,
a lot of 49er fans growing up.
A lot of 49er fans growing up too. So yeah, it's just one of those things where you don't see those old Yankee fans anymore, that no matter what a guy does, you boo him no matter what.
Yeah, that's crazy as far as that goes. But I think they should. Judge, it's there was a question posed to Boone about his availability, and in the first game of the Rays series, and he basically admitted that he thought he could have played. And this is becoming an ongoing issue with Judge. I'm not sure what the injury is. I mean, is it just? I know Yankee fans are using the excuse that, hey, the turf in Tampa doesn't agree with him. So as far as that goes, so what are your thoughts about like this, this whole thing with Judge? And I mean, listen, if he's not gonna, like, the most important stat in sports is games played. I mean, if the guy's not gonna play over 130 games, I mean,
look, Tropicana Field is not the best stadium on record, but we're not talking Veteran Stadium.
No,
we're not talking Riverfront Stadium. We're not talking
Buddy Ryan.
Yeah, we're not talking these ballparks where they basically put a carpet on concrete. And then Judge, of course, I don't know if you saw the Judge quote where, when they asked him about sitting out the game, he's like, well, what's the difference between playing 155 and 157 games? Get to 100 games first.
Yes. Yeah. Why seriously.
And that's going to be a real conundrum. When he comes up for a contract, he's going to be over 30 when he's eligible for free agency. He's not getting an 8-year deal from the Yankees, especially with his track record. Yeah. I don't even think I wouldn't be shocked if he's not a Yankee when his contract expires. It's going to leave a lot,
I think they're going to, though,
quite interesting.
As long as Cashman's there, they're going to keep him.
I don't know.
I think he will. I mean, because I'm still surprised that
if he plays another 120 games this year and then next year plays 120, are you going to pay $35 million a year for someone who's?
Listen, I was flabbergasted. When I say flabbergasted, James, I was flabbergasted that they paid Hicks. Like, I thought Hicks was.
I was shocked on Hicks.
Yeah, I was shocked on Hicks. But if they like you, I mean, they like you.
But right now, Aaron Judge is playing less games per year than Kyrie Irving. So
who is on sabbatical again, by the way. Yeah, it's something else, that kid.
Yes.
I see something else. But I just don't. I mean, here's the thing. Like, they're gonna beat up on the Orioles a whole lot. They play the Orioles a whole lot. But besides beating up on the Orioles, are they good enough? I mean, I just don't know if they're good enough. I think that's the thing. Are they gonna win? They're gonna win a lot of games because of the Yankees. Yes, but I just don't know how good they are when it comes to, the whole season, the division getting better. The West might be a little bit better this year. We'll talk about coming to some of the West Coast teams who will go off to pretty good starts here, James. But I mean, they might have to do a little bit more than be up on the Orioles to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's only 10 games, but we may have been a little too quick to put the Red Sox in the grave.
6-3 start, right?
They really turned it around after that 0-3 start, and JD Martinez is hitting the ball like it's 2018.
Yeah.
So you don't know what's going to go on there, and I mean the Rays just seem to have their number, and the Yankees were very lucky to get that win yesterday.
Mm-hmm. No question about it. So listen, this Ronald Acuna Jr. guy. So he's out here grounding out to shortstop and beating it out now. Like, what is go? And he beat it by a mile. Like this, he beat that. It was like his foot hit the bag, and then it's like maybe 2 seconds later the ball and Didi did not. Like, it was a regular play, James.
He was a regular play, but we're talking right-handed batter.
Yes.
Getting down the line that
exactly.
fast. Like you're not swinging and getting that automatic step. You're automatically 2 feet closer to first base when you're left-handed. That was young Ricky Henderson. I kind of remember a game where Ricky Henderson did that with the Oakland A's when he was young.
Yeah.
A deep ball to shortstop, and the shortstop, and he beat it out. But yeah, 2.9 seconds getting down the line. Crazy.
That's pretty. That's incredible.
I mean, there's just so much talent there with that kid.
Was that? That's like vision getting on the line. I mean, that was. Did he even run? That's crazy. And
there's some flair there, and he seems to bring out the best. I mean, those throwback Brave uniforms seem to bring out the best in him.
Yes, they do. Also, I mean, did you see the end of that game too, where if you're not, what is the point? You have a replay, you have officials on the field. Like, how could they possibly have get that play wrong at the end of that game, where it's clearly the Philly, I forgot who was sliding in the home, did not touch the plate whatsoever. I'm not sure if you saw that highlight, but it's like, what?
He did not touch the plate.
So
even the worst angle.
Yes, and like to me, it's like I'm trying to. I can't think of a scenario in my head why he would be safe, but it's just like really just it makes no. I mean, like if you can't get it right with instant replay, what's the point? Like what they just don't have it. They just have the human error and take it from there. I mean, it just like why can't they just get that right? That's just a horrible call. I mean, those two.
There's really we've really seen the worst of instant replay twice in a week. I mean, you got the Michael Conforto sticking his elbow out over the plate, and the only thing you can ask to be checked is whether or not he got hit. You can't you can't say he. I mean,
made no attempt to get out the way. Made no attempt. No,
he leaned in and stuck his elbow up. It's the exact opposite of the rule says you have to make an attempt to get out of the way. And kudos to the Mets announcers for just calling that as horrendous as a call it was, because there's not a lot of home team announcers that would.
New York does that though. I feel like if that was like Susan Wallman or like I mean it was Gary Cohen who calls the Mets games. I think those they will, if that's like the Rockies or somebody the Marlins, they probably, to your point, say, oh, it's a hit. It's a hit batsman. Don't worry about it. They actually called it, and they call like it is. And I think New York, New York and like kind of Boston, some of those cities, they will definitely their announcers in baseball especially have a little bit more authority to not be as homerish. They can say how they feel.
Yeah. My other kudos to SNY is SNY will spend at least the first half hour to 45 minutes of a rain delay with the announcers just talking baseball, which is something I remember from my youth during a Yankee rain delay, just listen to Frank Messer and Bill White and Phil Rizzuto talk baseball for hours until the game was called. They did a nice job with that yesterday with them talking baseball and talking about the past. But they don't go right away to, Yankees cut right away to Yankee Classics or Yankeeography the moment it starts raining. You actually have a, intelligent conversation. And you just hear guys talking baseball. It's great. SNY, those announcers, Keith and Darling, deserve a lot of credit.
Yeah. It's early, so there is not going to be like, this is starting off 1-5 isn't like starting 1-5 in a, NFL season, a 17-game NFL season. As ridiculous as that is. But the Nats, there was going to be a team. There's so many good teams in that division. You got the Braves, you got the Phillies, you have the Nats, you have the Mets. Somebody's going to get off to a really poor start. Look, right now it's the Nats. It's early. They're tied 1-1 right now as we speak, as we record this podcast. It's a long season. You don't want to get too worried about it, but you don't want to also dig yourself a hole because these teams ahead of you look like they're going to be pretty solid, right? Wins might be a little bit hard to come by.
And I mean, the Nats are just a mess in general from what happened with the COVID, getting the first, 3 games of the season called, messed up the Mets schedule. I mean, the Mets are just going to be hammered with doubleheaders going forward.
Are they doing a 7-inning doubleheaders this year?
7-inning doubleheaders this year. I mean, again, this is a team 2 years ago that won the World Series after having that horrendous start the first 60 games of the year, 70 games of the year.
It came on strong.
And they started out poorly last year also, turned it on just as the season was ending, but not nearly enough what they needed to get towards the end. So, you don't want that to be the habit every year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Scherzer just got out-dueled by Kershaw.
Yeah.
It
looks really good right now.
Yeah, it looks really good. Yeah. It's really it's that 20 game mark where you really want to look at teams with what their record is. And kind of by then you could tell, you get a feeling for what a team is.
Hang around, be around 500 to make a push, right?
Yeah, I mean, every team's going to win 50 games. Every team is going to lose 50 games. It's what you do with the other 62. Is how you got to look at it. And I think that's where they are. But yeah, in this division, I mean, we talked about this division and how tough it's going to be. And the Mets are going through the same thing. I mean, all the Met fans are complaining about their hitting, but again, this is a team that came up coming out of spring training, ready to go, and then your first 3 games are canceled. Then you run into the bad weather, and then you run into a Marlin team that might just be as good as they were last year. Hasn't shown any signs of being different that they were last year.
If that's the worst team in the division, then that's going to be. They have
a good division.
A good division because they are a young team that can definitely give you some issues as well.